Hello and welcome to the Daily Reprieve, where we provide essay speaker meetings, workshops, and conferences in podcast format. We are an ad-free podcast. If you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by going to donate.thedailyreprieve.com and drop $1 or $2 into the virtual basket. Please consider donating monthly by clicking the Donate Monthly button. However, one-time donations are always welcome. Just click the Donate Now button. Now, without further ado, this episode of The Daily Reprieve.
Today's topic is Mission Impossible, the essential role of God in lust recovery. And by design, we left this session more open because we wanted God to be able to move through the convention and to see where we would wind up after these 5 sessions, this now being the 6th, on the whole issue of lust recovery. And we've traveled quite a journey since the very first session. It will be very interesting to go back and listen to these CDs and tapes and see where we started and where we wound up. Roy has generously agreed to begin us with his own testimony on this, and then we want to turn the rest of the session to open mic, and we would like to ask you to offer your own perspectives on this. Where is God in your own lust recovery? We will keep the shares to 1 minute so that everyone has an opportunity to share. And I'll do the moderating once Roy is finished his talk. So with that, I'm going to ask Roy to come up and lead us in the beginning. Thanks.
Is that on? Can you all hear? Okay. Yeah. I'm Roy, sexaholic. I wasn't planning to do this, and it's a very important topic, and I come in weakness again. My last talk here, the whole physical system fell apart 30 minutes before the talk, and my wife and I were in the room, and she was wondering, what would happen. And Isaiah 41:10 is still my password. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. Don't be dismayed. I am your God. I will help you. I will strengthen you. I will uphold you with the right hand of my righteousness. Thank God I don't have to uphold myself. I don't have to try to be righteous. I don't have to be something. And I'm the one with the least faith and the weakest faith. And so he keeps hitting me over the head with, it's okay. It's okay. Just be Roy. This is a very, very, it's amazing how they designed this sequence of deals. This is where it's all at. Do you feel united, all this part? Do you want to just come down? Yeah, let's gather around here. Let's be a fellowship under God here. Yeah, and let's kick back and just relax and, I'm a sex drunk, lust junkie, by the way. Anybody else here? Okay. Anybody else need a power higher than lust? Okay. This is scary because Hey, thank you. Yeah, that's better. That's better. That's better. What you don't realize is I need you guys more than you need me. Do you believe that? You believe that? Yeah. Yeah. Don't make the mistake of putting personalities before principles. It's so easy in our culture. We have a star-oriented culture. I don't know if you noticed, but I never stand on ovations. because I feel it's wrong for us to put personality before print. Just my opinion. That's why I don't stand, and that's why I feel bad when people stand for me, and it's just very personal. But I understand it's part of our culture, and it's okay. But we need to look seriously at our traditions. God grant us the serenity to accept the things courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not ours, be done. Okay, I'm going to just try to center my thoughts, try to center my experience in discovering a higher power for lust recovery in terms of our 11th step and our 3rd step. And that'll be the starting point. 3rd step, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him. Okay, now here's a man I've never met before. Okay, who's a man in the front who I've never met before? Okay, I'm looking at you for the first time. Don't say a word. I want to know you. I want to understand you. So, let's say we're in a 22nd century and we have a machine that'll analyze every cell in your body, every cell in your brain, and I get the report. Do I know you? I know everything about it, but do I know you? Why not? Because you haven't disclosed anything about yourself. Now, the moment you shook your head, you began to reveal who you were. When I look in your eyes, and if you were to say a word and disclose yourself, I would get to know you. This is very personal. You're only going to get my experience, strength, and hope in this thing. One of the devolutions in the 12-step movement from 1935 in the AA program, which I cut my teeth from April 24th, 1974 to the present, was the open-ended, I think, abuse of God as we understand God. And when I came in, they were telling me they knew nothing about my background. And they said, Roy, it's just, the doorknob. You're just coming in here. The group, whatever. And you know what? I needed that. And I had studied for the ministry. I was a believer, et cetera. But somehow that made some sense to me. And it helped take the religious thing out of the whole business, which I had to have. But now in my recovery, all I could do, by the way, when I came in and was discovering lust, sober for the first time, 1974, that was before my slip. Having kicked myself out of the ministry, having gone down that spiral staircase to hell, having met Satan on the streets, having, whatever. All I could pray was, please help me, I'm powerless. I couldn't even say, God, please help me. But I'm working the program, I'm going to meetings, and I'm getting victory over lust. I'm discovering lust. I didn't even think about the sexual sobriety. It must have been 5 or 6 weeks passed by without sex. Good night. I didn't have a term sobriety because there was no SA. So I didn't use the word sobriety. It was just, hey, but it was the lust. This, by the way, is part of the background of those people who are asking me, what's the historical evolution of the progressive victory over lust in the literature? Well, that's it all. There's a whole bunch there. And that worked. Please help me, I'm powerless. And it was very, very, very shaky. Well, time goes on, I have a slip, a couple of years, and SA gets started as it has, and then several years into SA, I have my post office experience. And I start, the first time he's disclosed himself to me. Personally. Without a voice, but with a presence that saves and brings light and life and joy out of hell, out of conflict, out of darkness. And then to rise from that and to just, to feel the glory. So, here's, now, time goes by, and 32 years later, here I am. Have some more water. We got to lead with our weakness, folks. So, about several months ago, as I made the spiritual, I was convicted by God in the presence of other people. I was writing this book, Lust Virus, and I was convicted not to publish it for the world out there, but to make it available for the need of our people somehow. Even though I knew it could never be SA literature, I just felt. And when I was writing, and I was convicted of that very, very powerfully. So I wrote a final chapter, Implications for Recovery. The book was meant, for the world. Hey, I'm going to change the world out there. This whole idea of the new lust and what's involved and what's happening in pseudo-sexual revolution we're in and how we're all pseudo-sexuals. And so I wrote that chapter, and what an awakening it was. I did an inventory on, I had to write God, God as I understand it. So I'm going to take from this, if I can find it, and read my inventory. I got it marked. I wish they didn't have to record this, but I guess we can say. Okay, and here, I'll just read this. I said, having experienced the ravages of pseudosexuality for some 40 years, and then having progressively discovered through continued necessity the presence and working of the higher power in my life, the words God as we understood him, steps 3 and 11, for me became God as I have come to need and actually experience him. So the self-disclosure of God in my life has been a progressive thing based on my need and my response to that need in going up. And as I inventoried that, here's my inventory. And it came out just like this, and I never changed it. If I were to read this again, I'd probably reshuffle it, I'd add, I'd subtract, but I was writing this chapter for us. And it's for us. This chapter sums up how incredibly impossible recovery is for us, because underneath it is something we don't recognize yet, and yet how glorious it is. So here's the inventory on God as I have come to need and actually experience him. I can only speak for myself. This is my story, and then I'll shut up. And here are the points. I don't know, it must be at least 14 or 15 of them. Okay, the power must be available within me, as close as the thoughts and intents of my heart and soul, lusts, fantasies, and memories. Must be available at the moment of temptation and utter powerlessness. Must be an intelligent personal entity to comprehend me and what's going on in there and be able to discern my lies and denial strategies. Must be a spiritual entity, since my spirit is the playing field of the malady. Must understand and identify with human emotions, my emotions, lust, resentment, fear. And then I have a parenthesis here. Think about this attribute. The implications are enormous. But that's the kind of higher power I have to have in this moment. Must be able to connect with me at my very worst, regardless of the evil that's in here. Anytime, any place. Must be able to recognize my lust, resentment, fear, fantasy, etc. for what they really are, my death, even if I don't see them as such. He's got to know more about my malady than I do, or else I'm up the creek. Thank God he does know more about my sins than I will ever know. Must be able to take the transfer of these diseased attitudes from me so I can be released and free from their power. See, I can't take them. I used to take them and it was destroying me, slowly destroying my spirit and my body, my relations. I can't take it anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm weaker. That one glance in the food mall, was it so destructive to me? I need someone there. He must want to take that transfer anytime, any place. That's a demand. I mean, that's something I just have to have. Must be able to raise me out of that self-destructive spiritual death and bring me to life. See, that's what happened in the post office. I'm gone. I'm absolutely helpless. I'm in hell because there's nothing in me. I'm destroyed. I know that there's nothing in me that's going to save me from the consequences of that intake that I'm going to be powerless over taking. And the reason I can say this is, and then to be raised out of it, it's like it's like, and then some of those first phone calls to Kevin in that first few months of sobriety. Hey, Kevin, she just walked by. She's got a Micro Mini, high heels. She's got it on a platter. She's advertising. And I'm helpless and I'm hopeless. And then I just share and bring it to life. And when I put the phone down, the destruction, I'm more alive. I come to life out of that death. That's what we're talking about here. Able to raise me. Must be willing and able to direct my life better than I. Must offer forgiveness and cleansing from my wrongs, guilt, and shame. I came to a place where it just hit me. I need forgiveness. There's nothing in me that's worth it. There's nothing in me. How can I be forgiven? But to be raised from that guilt and shame. must be more real, more powerful, and more satisfying than my lust or fantasy, must be holy to reveal and deal with my pollution, and finally, must be and give me something better than what my lust, fantasies, and misconnections were looking for, unconditional redeeming love. That's God as I have come to experience Him. And I hope it never ends. But you know what it takes for this evolution of discovering my God? It seems to be very simple. I can't discover Him any more than I can honestly come to an awareness of my needs. And they keep on going. My need in the food court was more intense than it's ever been. I'm grateful for that need. But it's that need that brings, the self-disclosure. That's how He's disclosing Himself to me. It's not how I understand God. It's how I need and experience Him. He's got the disclosure, the self-disclosure of God. I believe in the self-disclosure of the Creator of this world in history. And we catch glimpses of it in the people that report on this and that have experienced it. And you and I are part of that process of reporting, and it's marvelous. It's marvelous. And I believe, and I'll close with this, I don't think we can imagine how He's going to continue to disclose Himself to lust addicts as lust gets more evil, more pervasive in every aspect of our lives and culture. So the promise is just unbelievable. We are the most lucky, the most fortunate sinners in the world. In the history of the human race, take any addiction, any foul civilization, any culture, Rome, whatever, Sodom, whatever. And He's working in us. Can you believe that? Can you believe He's working in me? Okay. God bless you all. Thank you.
I would like to thank you for listening to this episode of the Daily Reprieve, the best source for experience, strength, and hope for SA members. Please subscribe to this podcast to be alerted of new episodes. Please show your support by donating to the Daily Reprieve by going to donate.thedailyreprieve.com and choosing either monthly donations or a one-time donation by clicking Donate Now. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next episode of The Daily Reprieve.